Greetings, guys. Just got out of seeing the Sydney and Australian premiere of the brand new film from DC Studios, and that is Superman. And as you would expect, it is a landmark film for DC Studios and for Warner Brothers. It is the relaunch of the DC cinematic universe. There was a previous cinematic universe that probably didn't do too well compared to what they would have hoped it would be. This is the reimagining of that and the restart of that, and they're starting with Superman, and it is thanks to director James Gunn, who also coincidentally is the head of DC Studios along with Peter Safran. They've just been recently appointed over the last few years, but this is the first endeavour that they have to try and build a cinematic universe much like the beloved Marvel Studios cinematic universe all the way over at Disney. My first thoughts, it is a interesting film. It tries to do a lot, and I mean a lot. Now, it's quite an admirable thing from James Gunn to kind of really approach it this way. It does feel very much like a James Gunn film. It's got those interesting quirks. It's got that sense of humour to it that's really fun and enjoyable. It's action-packed. The amount of cameos in this film is absolutely insane. DC Comics fans and fans of the films are just going to love the fact of how much James Gunn manages to fit in this movie and to include. I will say, though, it probably takes a little bit away from the Superman character. Superman is a tough nut to crack. Even in some of his most successful films, probably the most often criticism is that he is just this invincible kind of being that maybe isn't quite that relatable, and really his only vulnerability is essentially a rock from another planet, kryptonite, and maybe there's a few other kind of interesting things like magic and maybe like an anti kind of version of him, like Zod or like a Bizarro or kind of like an anti-Superman that they've tried in various kind of movies. But this one, James Gunn manages to really create a lot of vulnerabilities in Superman, maybe a little bit too much in some ways. He is a very relatable character in this, whether it's Clark Kent or whether it's Superman. Very relatable, very down to earth, and just this amazing compulsion to do what's right. And that's something that kind of really harkens from the original Superman comics all the way back from the origin in Action Comics from 1939 and all the way to 1978 with the amazing Richard Donner, Christopher Reeve Superman that really kind of set the tapestry for what Superman could be on the big screen. That movie does have a few flaws in it, but really just the John Williams score in that and Christopher Reeve's introduction, Gene Hackman, and just especially that first half of the movie, it's just tremendously heartwarming. I think a lot of that's to do with the John Williams soundtrack. There are some John Williams overtures in this, but it is essentially a remixed kind of composition in relation to this film. Not quite as heart-wrenching as kind of that original 1978 kind of motion picture and the way that kind of score is constructed, but it's nice to hear remnants of that. Notable mentions. The star of the film, obviously, is Superman and Clark Kent, and he's played by the very well-cast David Corenswet. Now, is he as good as Henry Cavill, or is he good as Christopher Reeve? I don't know how to answer that question. He is good in his own right. He is very well cast. He offers something quite different, but he offers a similar aura to Henry Cavill and Christopher Reeve. So that's going to be the inevitable comparison. He is tremendous in what he kind of puts on screen, but he has a lot to do, and he's got a lot more vulnerability to show, and you see Superman probably a little bit, I don't want to use the wrong word here, but he does get a bit unhinged sometimes because of everything that's going on. He's trying to do right, and then society around him is just really affecting him because it seems like no matter what he does, he can't get it right. And it is an interesting commentary on society today from James Gunn. It's nearly like people are kind of a little bit fickle and they'll like you one minute and then the next minute they won't. They want to be saved one minute and then the next minute they don't, and you're public enemy number one. And James Gunn plays a lot with those themes, and I think that's really smart from him. But really with Superman, probably the main thing is just getting him really relatable. And not only is he, well, I don't want to say short-tempered, but he kind of is emotional, and I think that kind of makes things relatable. And the other smart thing that James Gunn does, particularly with the script, is to include the character behind me, and that is Krypto, who is essentially Superman's dog, but he's a dog he's minding for another character that I won't mention because that might be giving some spoilers away. But he's tremendously delightful on screen, and whenever there is a moment that the script's going a little bit haywire, you just show Krypto the dog, and it's all right again. It's just gone. It's kind of like that famous film saying, "I just use a cat in the window." James Gunn is using a dog in a cape, and it is really fun watching this animal on screen. And it's just that dynamic that gives you that relatability to Clark Kent and to Superman that hasn't been done on screen before. And James Gunn, it's done a brilliant job in previous movies, including kind of those animalistic characters. He did it so well with Rocket Raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, he started with some Marvel films before he moved on to DC. But yeah, it's just a fun kind of engagement between those characters. Another star in this, I think she's probably one of the strongest characters in this, is Rachel Brosnahan. She plays the role of Lois Lane. She's tremendous in this. I can't give her enough credit for what she kind of brings to it. Very authentic to comic books. And also, this film is very interesting because it kind of leans a lot more into that Silver Age kind of comics. There is a lot of fantastic Superman properties out there, all the way from the original Action Comics from the 1930s and 40s, but also just those Universal kind of Fleischer cartoons. They were tremendous. They had pretty much had an unlimited budget because they asked for it, didn't expect to get it. They produced some really grounded kind of stuff that really felt like 1940s kind of literature and pop and pulp kind of material that was really good and grounded in many ways. Now, this movie, definitely not grounded, but definitely not out of control either. But it does lean a bit more into that Silver Age kind of film, Silver Age DC Comics. A lot of sci-fi kind of elements in this. They use a lot of robots and kind of a bit more science, which kind of grounds it a little bit more, which is kind of around about, the Silver Age kind of ties in a lot with when Marvel Comics was starting to kind of come into prominence, kind of 60s, 70s, and even a little bit of the 80s as well. So it's just tremendous to kind of see that all kind of put together. Another notable mention is in the role of in the role of Lex Luthor is Nicholas Hoult, and he is just really diabolical. I don't think a villain's been played so well in a while, and it's not one of those villains that you're kind of rooting for or enjoying their depiction. He is just horrible. You just really want to dislike this guy. The things he does to the other characters in this film, it just makes him public enemy number one. He reminds me of those kind of wrestling heels that kind of will, feign injury and then they kind of poke you in the eye when the referee's not watching. He's that guy. He is the ultra hateable kind of villain, and he depicts it very well. I tremendously disliked him in this, which just probably shows how good he was in it. But really, the plot is kind of a little bit too much in some ways, in all honesty. If you're a DC Comics fan or a DC Films fan, I think you're going to love all the introductions. James Gunn throws a lot in this. There's a lot of cameos, and it makes it really interesting to kind of see on screen. However, I think for someone who's just entering this world and just wanting to see a Superman story, there is a lot, and I don't think you necessarily need prior knowledge about Superman or anything like that, or DC Comics, but it might help because it fills in a lot of gaps. This might be a film that you need to watch multiple times, even if you are a DC fan, because of all the things that are happening in this film. But it is fun, it's enjoyable, it has its moments, probably tries to do a little bit too much, so I can't even say it's probably the best film I've seen this year, but it is fun and enjoyable. I'm just curious to see what type of stuff James Gunn and DC Studios are actually going to do to build on this, if this is their first outing. Obviously, Marvel Studios had Iron Man as the first outing, and that's a tremendous film. This film, I'm not sure if it really matches that. It does a lot more, but it's not as kind of tight in script. But James Gunn does a tremendous job. It's just kind of a really tricky film to kind of describe. So yeah, it's just enjoyable. I do recommend seeing it. Definitely check it out. There is some tremendously cool characters, kind of Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. He's enjoyable to watch. Also, I have to mention in the role of Mr. Terrific, we get Eddie Gathegi. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I thought he was really great in it as well. But yeah, it's just a fun kind of movie. Some interesting cameos, and he really does flip Superman on its head a little bit. Some of the usual tropes that you're used to with Superman characters, James Gunn kind of does change it around a bit, and and it does make it feel like a very different film. Definitely worth watching on the big screen. It's definitely action-packed, definitely fun, has its kind of set pieces. Maybe a little bit too much, but it's enjoyable. I do recommend seeing it. Probably not the best film this year, but it is worth a watch, definitely on the big screen. But aside from that, I am about to head off. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video, and also leave a comment to let us know if you've seen Superman and what you thought of it. I'd love to hear it. And also where you see the future of the DC cinematic universe going. But aside from that, I'm about to head off. I'll catch you guys at the next one. So long.
Are you being serious right now?
Yeah.
You'd let me interview you as Superman.
Sure.
Ready?
Let's do it, Cronkite.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for
I
what
know,
some
it's
might.
a lot of
it's
fire,
a lot. Today, the Secretary of Defense said he was going to look into your actions. That's funny?
My actions? I stopped a war.
Maybe.
Not maybe. I did.
In effect, you illegally entered a country.
This is how you're gonna be?
I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman. Did you consult with the president?
No.
You seemingly acting as a representative of the United States.
I wasn't representing anybody except for me.
Around the world.
And doing good.
I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die. Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Choices, your actions. That's what makes you who you are.
Superman. He's not a man. He's an it. Somehow become the focal point of the entire world's conversation. I will not accept that.
I cleaned your boots. I'll go get them for you.
You have a dog?